Hi, it's Mike and Alan once again with the Gold Silver Show. Alan, what have you got for us today?
Hey, Mike. Yes. So here comes socialism. A lot of people are concerned about the new mayor that was elected a couple weeks ago in New York City. People are still bent out of shape. But my point is, you shouldn't be concerned about the socialism that might be coming. You should be concerned with the socialism that's already here. So I want to take a look at some of the policies that we have in place already in America on a national level and sort of put things into perspective and see how we might solve this problem. So the first tweet we have here, Jason Howerton says, he's got a quote from Donnie here: "We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about." Genuinely one of the most horrifying quotes I've ever heard from a politician. So
Yeah,
this sort of embodies a lot of people who are really bent out of shape about the new mayor.
right. Now, the part that I want to point out is that, and no concern too small for government to care about. So you showed me a couple of these frames before we started. What's the next frame?
Yeah, it's actually the same one, but posted by Thomas Sowell.
Thomas Sowell, he is absolutely my favorite living economist. There is nobody better than Thomas Sowell. And what amazes me here is that he missed the second half of this quote, because that is the no concern too small for the government not to care about. That means they're going to intrude into your life with everything. No problem too large. Those are the things that people typically want government to try and, most of the socialist population wants government to take care of this and take care of that instead of allowing the free market to figure out how to do it. But that thing of no problem too small means the government in New York is going to be involved. They're going to be deeply involved in everybody's life. And that is a horrible thing. That's what happened. That's the USSR. That's China under Mao. So, okay.
Yeah, central planning never works in the long run. So, by the way, in fairness to Thomas Sowell, this is not his personal Twitter account. This is someone else running it. So he's not Thomas Sowell, but he shares quotes and other things that are inspired by him. So,
Excellent.
yeah, just a little context there. So, one other quote from Mamdani earlier in his Twitter life here. Basically, taxation isn't theft; capitalism is. So I think this is completely backwards. Obviously, he's turning it around for rhetoric and for flair. But to me, this is absolutely backwards. Capitalism is freedom. You don't have to do anything unless you want to do it. And taxation is extortion. You have to do it under penalty of physical violence. So that's theft.
Violence or incarceration or both. Right.
Exactly.
And capitalism is a voluntary exchange, and it's where all prosperity comes from. So basically, he's calling for the end of prosperity and saying that taxation isn't theft. So you got to get rid of capitalism and you got to tax the hell out of anybody that has anything left after you get rid of capitalism, which is pretty much impossible. Even in the USSR, capitalism springs up. It's called the black market, illegal capitalism. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So just to sum it all up here, socialism is resentment disguised as compassion, enforced by tyranny disguised as tolerance.
So absolutely true.
Yeah, I think that's really well phrased there. I like that a lot.
Yep.
So just to put things in perspective, I know this is a little bit reductionist. It's a little simplistic, but I think it sort of illustrates the point. If we look at a socialism or capitalism as extremes, what they look like is socialism is ownership and control of productive resources in a centralized way, either by the state or by the collective, with the intention of distributing output according to communal priorities rather than individual property rights. So putting the group ahead of the individual. Capitalism, on the other hand, productive resources are privately owned, so the individual is ahead of the group, and individuals freely exchange goods and services in pursuit of profit, allowing prices and allocation to emerge from voluntary market interactions.
Yeah, the most important thing there is the word voluntary.
Voluntary.
This is all, people think that pointing a gun at a population and ordering them to cooperate with one another is somehow fairer, more benevolent than just allowing people to do business with one another and voluntarily, which is exactly what they're trying. They're trying to get everybody to work together, but they won't allow it voluntarily. They got to force it at the point of a gun. Okay.
Exactly. And so I just want to point out here that it's not like socialism is coming, it's coming. It's already here in a lot of industries in the United States. So using this layout here, we can see that there's a pretty wide distribution of how the industries are either capitalist or socialist in nature. So our
Right.
K-12 education system is basically completely socialist. So is our military, our post office, veteran healthcare, and probably our military should be, but these others probably not. And we could debate any of these other industries
Well,
here.
I want to debate a couple because I think
Okay.
Medicare, Medicaid belongs in the complete socialist. So does public housing. That belongs in the socialist category. So does food assistance. These things, I mean, I would be happy to donate a certain amount of my income to, food kitchens and stuff. Utilities belongs in this category right here. But the top three, those belong over in the socialist camp. They've got so much public housing in Puerto Rico, and then people are paid not to work, and it creates a huge problem. On my farm, we have trouble finding labor. We can't find because if you we can't we're not going to pay a dollar under the table to anybody. Everything has to be done by the book here. So everything has to go through paychecks that taxes get deducted from and everything else. Nobody and anybody here will work for you for cash. But if you offer them the same amount as just legally hiring them, they won't work because they'll lose what they call their coupons, which is the SNAP program, food stamps. They will lose government housing. And so what happens is you have a whole bunch of people that will work for cash or they deal in drugs, living in these government assisted facilities. And it's interesting because you go to these government assisted places, and the cool thing here is to buy one of these. I can't remember the brand, but there's these sand buggies. Basically, these. It's just a metal frame and a real powerful engine, and then they put in a $10,000 or $20,000 stereo system and drive these things around the street, which are illegal on the mainland. You see these vehicles that cost $100,000 or more in the parking lots of these publicly assisted housing facilities. It's just, and that's a drug dealer. So anyway,
Well, that's all the incentive system, right? It's a terrible incentive system that people are just responding to incentives. So I don't blame anybody for responding to the incentives and taking care of themselves. That's actually the trick. Is capitalism is the best set of incentives to get people to contribute to the greater good. Is let them keep the profits, let them keep the fruit of their own labor, and don't give them handouts for staying home.
Yeah.
And this is really what it looks like at the absolute base level. This is how you create that incentive structure. If you want a socialist society, have a fiat monetary system. If you want a capitalist society, have your money be gold. And that's it. Everything else will solve itself.
Right. Because the government can't type gold into existence where they just type fiat currency. I can't remember who. I think it was Dan that said the difference between 1 and 1 trillion is 12 zeros.
Yeah. Someone in the comment section in one of our videos, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. So quick announcement, I'm going to be doing a live Q&A on Zoom for any of our viewers. That's going to be Tuesday, December 9th this year. So in just a couple weeks, that'll be from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time, $20 per person. And you can register at goldsilver.com/HSOV. So if you have questions about hidden secrets of value or any of the things we talk about on the channel and you want me to answer it live, that's a perfect place to do it. So if that URL doesn't work, just stay tuned. We might have to give you a different one, but I just want to give you this date now. That way you can put it on your calendar. So we'll have more announcements in upcoming videos.
Excellent.
So next, we have a tweet from Jeffrey Tucker. It's a national disgrace that an entire nation would be yelling and demanding more free food. It's utter humiliation. This program runs contrary to everything we ever aspired to be as a nation.
Okay, now if you watch Hidden Secrets of Money, one of the things that happened toward the end of the Roman Empire is free distributions of wheat to a lot of basically social programs. Free distributions of wheat was free food. It's the equivalent of our SNAP program, and it happens when a society is in the process of falling apart, when an empire is nearing its end, and it's a way to buy votes. The concept applies to everything that you're talking about in this video.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's actually turn to some of the socialism that we've already been having. Trump announces a $2,000 tariff dividend to be paid to most Americans. Okay. So President Donald Trump on Sunday announced that most Americans would receive a dividend payment of at least $2,000 paid out of U.S. tariff revenues. So this is not capitalism, right? This is redistribution of the fruits of someone else's labor according to a central planner.
Yeah, every importer was charged these tariffs, not China. There is no foreign entity that actually paid taxes into this thing. It all came out of the pockets of Americans. First, the importers were hurt, and then they have to pass on the costs, and it works its way up the chain to retail. And eventually, it's the consumer paying it. Now, who consumes the most? The people that make the most. And they make the most by producing more than they consume, actually. That's the reason their paychecks are high. That's the reason they've got excess cash, is because they're producing more than they consume. And so this is a redistribution of wealth, any way you look at it.
Exactly. And something that Trump tweeted on Truth Social here is a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone.
Okay, so, not including the people that paid most of these taxes. They're not going to get it back. It's going to be given to other people, which buys votes. So it's going to be more low-income people that get these checks, and it means more to them. But it's just another way of buying more votes. So
exactly, it's socialism any way you look at it.
And it's if people did receive a $2,000 check, it's very hard to claw that back if the Supreme Court decision is that these tariffs are constitutionally illegal. Because the power to tax is supposed to belong to Congress, not the president.
Yeah, the power to tax is the power to destroy, right? That's right. I thought you were going with that.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms. Oh,
yeah. So this is what Besant said. Yeah, the $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms. It could be just the tax decreases that we're seeing in the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. Those are substantial deductions. LOL, you're not getting those checks. So this is basically what was promised on the campaign trail. And now it's like, oh, you're going to get a $2,000 check. But it could be the case that it's just another version, another form of packaging on what was already promised.
Right. And now, if it is a tax deduction, which, you've got to file by April 15th, that gives plenty of time to do a clawback, and then these deductions would go away. So it was just it was basically a tweet that, let me see. This is a quote from the Shawshank Redemption, a tweet that disappears like a fart in the wind.
The man up and vanished like a fart in the wind. Love that movie.
Right.
Yep. That's a good one. So we can kind of sum it all up like this. Politics in one picture. Once I'm elected, I will become vegetarian.
Yep. That's the way I feel about every the last president that I really liked was... Hi, it's Mike here. Just a quick message. I wanted to welcome the huge number of new visitors to our videos, but point out that less than 15% of our viewers have subscribed to this channel and hit the notification bell. We're heading into some turbulent times, so if you don't want to miss any updates, make sure you enable notifications. And thank you as always for clicking the thumbs up button. One more thing. At goldsilver.com, we've been providing top-notch educational content for over 20 years. If you'd like to help us continue this mission, we'd be honored to be your precious metals dealer. And now back to the video. That's the way I feel about every the last president that I really liked was Kennedy, but looking back on it, he was quite a socialist actually. And so I'm not sure, if he was. I was like, 6 years old or 8 years old or something back then. So I don't know what he ran, but I watch some of the old video clips, and man, was he sharp. But now that I'm getting close to 70, when we have an election, I just look at all these bozos with complete and utter contempt. I know they are lying to me when they're doing their campaigns, and then they change. So this is it. This is the campaign trail. So, okay, let's move on.
I agree completely. Joel Webben says, why couldn't you afford a house these past 7 years? Because millions of foreigners were given your tax dollars to drive up prices in your country and buy what should have been your home. That's treason. So it was all immigrants overpaying for houses using taxpayer-provided welfare. Another example of socialism. Look at this. Let me explain this chart here. Yeah, the FHA loan locks to immigrants without permanent residency, including H-1B visa holders. So we saw a huge rise the last 4 years or so. And then there was just a ban on giving FHA mortgages to that type of visa holder. And all of a sudden, it plummets down to here to levels lower than what we had before. So basically, it was all immigrants.
Okay, Dan talks a lot about this same thing in Australia because he's from Australia. And there, the problem is actually much, much worse than this. But this is actually horrific. And it's so true that, quote, this is the reason you can't afford a home. This is the reason that one of the big reasons that homes have gone up so much into a super bubble, and it's simultaneous with a real estate, a stock market bubble that's of historic proportions, and the bond bubble has not deflated yet. So we've got this the first time in history where it's the almost everything bubble. It's only gold and silver that are not in bubbles. So, okay.
Exactly. So, yeah, I can't blame anyone for responding to these incentives. We have to change the system itself. And here's what the system looks like. Just for example, the gross federal debt, if you look at it since 1790, okay, a couple hundred years, it basically didn't go anywhere until we got the Federal Reserve, and then all of a sudden it shoots up like a rocket. You could split this into capitalism, and then all of a sudden we got socialism, starting with the monetary system, and it doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican. We get more and more and more debt for more and more socialist programs. That's how it works.
Yep, absolutely true.
And the exact same thing happened with the CPI, the overall price level. So we basically had capitalism for over 100 years, 140 years, and prices generally went down when we weren't at war. And then we got the Federal Reserve, and then prices go up whether we're at war or not. And in fact, the existence of the Federal Reserve makes it easier to go to war and have forever wars. And again, it doesn't matter if we have a Democrat or a Republican, or if they campaign on socialist policies or capitalist policies, we're going to get socialist policies. That's just how it works.
Yep.
So there you go.
Well, I want to thank you for the presentation, and I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.